and good evening and good whatever. This is Going Well, I think, with David Cooper, and I am the host of said show, David Cooper. It's This Is Going Well, I think, or Tigwit more affectionately, the show where no one's listening, no one cares, the show where every episode's the last episode. Today, a fantastic lineup, which is something I say most days, so I am just saying that, but also the lineup fantastic. Sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty is going to be here in about a minute to talk about common red flags she's been seeing on the dating apps. And then she'll go over a few with me and we'll decide whether they're real red flags for us or things that we wouldn't mind. I'm excited about this. After that, Tony Five, foreign correspondent in London, England, the lovable idiot. Will he listen to this and get mad that I called him an idiot? Maybe. But it is what it is. Tony and I are going to go over the helicopter crash that, sadly for some, not so sadly for others, killed the president of Iran. And then talk about how ChatGPT created a voice that sounded a little bit too much like Scarlett Johansson's. So that's what you have to look forward to. But first, this. And in just a few moments' time, Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator, is going to be here. So put on your sex ed caps. What's a sex ed cap, you might ask? I have no clue. We are here with sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty to talk dating, sex, other things that don't include dating and sex. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Hi.
For those who don't know, this is my second stab at an introduction. This one not great, but the first one was really bad.
I mean, I was just waiting for you to describe me as a sexy clown because we used to always do that together.
We did, and you are a sexy clown. I was about to say sexual
Thank
clown.
you.
I suppose, would you identify as that? That's somehow subtly different.
It's subtly different, but also true. Yes.
Good. A sexual clown is someone who's silly in the bedroom. A sexy clown is someone who is a clown who's sexy.
I would also argue that a sexual clown is someone who makes clownery choices in their sexual relationships.
Which is going back to being a sexy clown. So they're more similar than they are different, but they're somehow...
No, very different because I'm a clown, right? Like, as my profession, I am a professional clown. But then I'm like sexy, like as a person. So it's like I'm a sexy clown. A sexual clown means that I'm doing clownery in my sex life, like as in choosing terrible partners.
So I have a friend who works at a performing venue. It's called the House of Yes in New York. And they do, like, it's clowning, it's stripping, it's vulgar, it's dudes spreading their ass cheeks open and reading poetry while wearing clown masks. It's acrobatics. It's a very strange venue. It's like they call it like it's a sideshow, a clown sideshow. Do you do that kind of stuff?
No, but I'd love for you to send me the details.
Not only that, next time we're in New York, I'll go with you, even though I vow never to go there because it's just too much for me. It's too much.
That sounds like the night of my dreams because it's so weird and obviously horny, and I'm a 6'6" sicko, so
it is weird and obviously horny, and this is unpaid brand advertising for House of Yes. But that's not why we're here. We're here because are you on the apps, or are you just observing the friends on the apps? Are you out there on these app streets?
I am in and of these app streets, yes.
Got it. And look, I was on the apps in 2013, maybe. I'm out of practice. And I'm lucky because things were less weird back then. Not that they weren't weird. They were weird. They weren't great, but it's gotten so much worse. If only because of the gamification of the whole thing. Like these certain apps, you got to pay to swipe, you got to pay to match, all this kind of nonsense. It creates this like weird paying and non-paying class system within the dating apps. I never really had to navigate that, so you should be jealous of me. But people put some wacky things in their profile, don't they?
They absolutely do. And if I can just make a point about dating apps back in the era that you were talking about, much simpler times, it had more of, like, if you remember, like Craigslist, like casual encounters or like that whole
Yes.
era? Did you ever?
I never put up a casual encounter, but I just remember reading them and being in awe of them, and they were part of the culture back then.
Fun fact is that I used to constantly get my casual encounters posts flagged and taken down.
Why?
Because everyone thought I was like a bot or a troll or like whatever, right? Because I would like come home drunk. This is back in the day. This is pre Samantha Bitty days. This is before I was a well person. Not that being drunk and going on casual encounters is unwell, but it was unwell for me. And I'd be like, well, I want to have a casual encounter. And we didn't have dating apps. So I would like post or whatever. And then they would always get flagged and taken down. And I'm like, I think because there really weren't a lot of women, like women looking for like men hookups on there back then. And so there was just the assumption that, oh, this person is just like trolling or whatever. So I did not have any Craigslist casual encounters.
It was a lot of dudes looking for dudes, as I recall. That was kind of they were the ones who really conquered the, just like they own the bathhouses, they own Craigslist casual encounter.
Do you remember missed connections?
Yes, of course. My ex-wife used to put them out for me and I would never see them. And then I'd come home and she'd be mad at me. This was how great our relationship was. It was sweet, I guess. But also like, you're mad at me for not, I'm in a relationship, dude. I'm not trolling. Never mind.
No, I hear that. And like, for me, I was one of those people who this isn't exclusively now only for elder millennials and over, I guess. Like, but I was kind of person where I was constantly looking on misconnections and I'd be like out in the world trying to miss connections so that somebody could write one for me. And the closest I ever got was I was a descriptor as you were with this girl who looked like this. And it was like about my friend. And it was because I was wearing like a sailor dress to this like dance party. And when I saw it listed in the thing, I was like, oh my gosh, I was at that event. Da, 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 da. And then it was literally the connection next to me. And I was like, wow.
Oh my God. So close, but so far away.
It really contributed to my victim complex.
That one single moment. Yeah, for those who have no idea what we're talking about, either too old, too young, or just wasn't on Craigslist, Misconnections was this place you could describe public encounters you had with an attempt to reach out to the person because you never got their phone number, never got their name, never got any kind of contact information. I had one friend, she would like go out and stare at people way too long on the bus, like ostensibly probably creeping them out in the hopes that she could go home and find the encounter on Misconnections. I don't think she ever got one. Do you know anyone who got one?
I know several people who've had them.
What?
And like I said, there was one next to me. It was my friend.
Did she reach out to the guy or girl or?
Oh, golly. I don't remember now. This is 15 years ago.
I mean, I've never met a couple where you're like, where did we meet? Misconnections. No, it's like Tinder, Grindr. Like it's always an app, but it's never Misconnections.
I know a couple who are, it's a man and a woman couple who are married and they met in an Uber pool.
Ugh. No. I just don't like Uber. And I don't like how Uber tried to create this culture of like, oh, you'll meet young professionals all while like, you know, exploiting the drivers. I can't get past that. I couldn't buy it. I took a Lyft line, which is an Uber pool for Lyft or whatever, once. And like the driver was friendly and the people in the car were like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, no. I'm not putting money in Lyft's coffers. I'm sounding like a New Yorker now. Coffers. I'm going to go on a rant against Lyft and Uber. And never mind. I don't need to do that. But that was my not on your friends in and of themselves.
No, that's real. And I think, I guess the reason why I brought it up is because I think anybody, like, it's just so, like, it's like as if, like, that doesn't actually happen to people. But it did for them. And I'm not really close with them. So I have no idea how good or garbo their marriage is. But I think for me, it's like, oh, you wanted a discounted ride, huh? Like, that's not where I'm finding my spouse, my honest to God spouse.
You want someone who can afford the full Uber.
I want Uber Black. I want Uber Premium. I want Uber Comfort at least.
I hear it.
Please.
No, I'm with you on that. That's so funny. It's also like
In this economy?
their relationship is now predicated on this corporation maintaining their good name. Like, what if it found out that Uber was, letting drivers die, or like, not that they're a great company, they're a terrible company, and it's a horrible marketplace that really causes awful things for their drivers, and they fight it using lawyers to prevent any kind of regulation or taking care of the drivers or unionizing. All that aside, like, what if the CEO of Uber is a murderer and the company gets taken down? It's like if you go to a university and then there's some controversy. It's like, oh God, it's like your reputation is now tied to this company, but it's the reputation of your relationship. Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah. Also, basically every university then, but I can just imagine the speeches at their wedding. Like, you guys met in an Uber pool, like you.
But don't worry, it was surge pricing.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. I want to talk to you about something on the apps that's funny. Deal breakers in a moment. Samantha Bitty is here, sexual health and consent educator. Samantha Bitty. I was about to say your age. Are you cool with your age? Are you one of these people who's like, don't say my age? Probably not.
Oh no, I mean, I'm cool with my age. I think it's funny, like, because I'm like a city 38, which is basically 28. But if I was like a suburban 38 and like got married and had kids and like did all that stuff, I'd be like 48, respectfully. So yeah, I'm good with it, but it's funny to me because I'm like, oh, I don't think the way that I imagine or behave in a way that I imagine someone of 38 should conduct themselves. I mean, I'm really emotionally intelligent and mature and all those things. Like, I hold myself in that way. But in terms of how I look, for one, like, not at all, baby.
Well, I'm luckily 37 for another 3 weeks. Oh, shit. It's coming for me. When was your birthday? Because I feel like I missed it.
It's wild that we've been able to maintain this relationship for this many years.
I once dated someone. She asked me when I was born. And she's like, oh, great, I have a real thing for shitty Geminis. And I'm like, well, thanks, I guess. That's your type, and I am that type.
My goodness. Well, I think this brings us to our topic of like deal breakers, because being a Gemini is totally one of the deal breakers that I've seen on dating apps. So I'm going to take control of this situation right now. I'm going to dom this segment.
Please do.
Yeah. I am going to name for you a bunch of the common deal breakers that I've seen on apps, and I want you to tell me. I know you're in espoused or betrothed or whatever.
I can tell you what my deal breakers are.
Hypothetically, if you were dating, if you re-entered the market, if these would be deal breakers for you.
She's gonna dump me eventually, Samantha. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's not an if, it's a when. So I'll be on the market eventually.
I mean, life is long, baby, whatever. So deal breaker. Okay, so one of the most common deal breakers I've seen is if someone is a smoker.
Sure.
Cigarette smoker.
I see it.
Like that.
Yeah. Oh, would that be a deal breaker for me? No. But it would be a problem because I would start smoking again. So I think it's not that like, oh, you smell of cigarettes or, oh, it's bad for your health. It's like, if I date you and you're chain smoking, I'm going to start smoking again. Because I'm one Nicorette piece away from starting smoking again at any given time. You know what I mean?
As you know, I am a very social smoker. And anyone who dates me is always super surprised. They're like, oh my God, like, you smoke? And I was like, I do. I'm a 6 sicko. And they are so tempted by it. Like, they're like, oh, like, I wish I could smoke. And I'm like, here you go. Like, I'm such an enabler.
Oh God.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, if a child asked me really, really nicely for a cigarette, I'd give it to them. And I'm like, you know what? Me too. All right, moving on. Having debt.
Oh, then no problem.
I know, isn't that absurd? Having kids.
Oh, I think now at 38, as long as they didn't want me to have much to do with them. I'm not saying I won't have a dinner with your kids every now and again, but I don't want to be a dad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And don't expect me to like your kids. I'm not going to hate them, but I'm not going to like your kids like I like my cat. I don't expect strangers to like my cat like I like my cat. To them, it's just a cat. So if those are met, which I think for some people would be deal breakers that I see it that way, yeah, I could date someone with kids, no problem.
For me, I have no issue if somebody has children. But my boundaries around it are like, I will never meet your children unless we are like very serious, like very committed. We see a future that is like very long term. Because as someone who, as a child, had people introduced to me and like inserted into my life and made my family and all of that other stuff, I would never do that to a child unless I knew I was like, okay, I'm going to be in this child's life for a very, very, very long time. Or I at least had the dynamic with that person to be like, well, if we break up, like you don't break up with kids. Like that would always have to be the parameters. So I'm good with people having kids as long as they're not trying to be like, oh, here's my friend Samantha. Like, no.
So a lot of boundaries. I think our answers are slightly different, but the core of it, yes, but there's got to be boundaries.
A lot. Okay, so not wanting kids.
Oh, not a problem at all. I don't want kids.
That's my preference. If I see those little scissors in a dating app bio, I'm like, mwah, that'll send me over the edge.
That's vasectomy? I didn't know that. See, I don't know what the code is. What are some of the other emojis?
Well, it depends on what app you're on, darling. If I'm like kind of on the fence about someone, yeah, those little scissors, I'm like, let's see how this goes. Being vegan.
Oh, not a problem at all. But
you would date.
But I married a vegetarian. I lived with a vegetarian.
That's not vegan.
You're right. She ate eggs and cheese. But it's got to be like, it's my own personal choice. And I'm not trying to, it's like I could date someone who is religious, maybe. That's actually one, if not on your list. Would it be a deal breaker for you? I could date someone who had their own, relationship with the God that they believe in. But if they're trying to convert me, no thank you. I will concede that vegans are more ethical and moral than us meat eaters. I actually do think eating animals is kind of awful. I just don't care enough to stop. And I don't like what that says about me as a person, but that's where I'm at. If they can handle that, then I could date a vegan. And I could eat vegan food with them. I wouldn't be having a steak while they, every night. But yeah, I could. No problem.
Well, maybe you did or didn't know this. I'm sure we talked about it at some point, but Jacob,
I remember,
is vegan, right? And within that veganism is like, I don't want to say allowed, but it was tolerable for me to eat animal products around him. Would I like eat a pepperette and then be like, let's make out? No, like it's like you navigate it with respect. So that's that.
Yes. Mutual respect. I could date a vegan.
Yes. Okay. Not in therapy.
I mean, that's a real deal breaker. Not because do you really want to date someone that well adjusted? Like,
no, it's like you have to be in therapy. So it's like
that's what I'm saying.
Not in therapy.
If I would not date someone not in therapy on the assumption that they're that well adjusted, or they're really not well, it's like they're either too good, in which case you're too perfect, not interested, or they're a real mess and they refuse to acknowledge it. This might be a deal breaker for me.
What's so funny about the way that you and I both interpreted that is, to me, I'm like, someone who's in therapy is going to be more well adjusted. I think if you don't need to be in therapy in this climate, then you're either like so bananas privileged that we've got nothing, like we could never coexist as like lovers or friends. Or you're just like completely, as you said, completely delulu. And it's like, no. So
it's well-adjustment privilege. It's like not even financial privilege. It's not racial privilege. It's just like you're too perfect and well-adjusted as a person. You can handle everything fine. That's privilege, and that's too much privilege.
Yeah, no, you're not paying attention if you're not in therapy. Okay, being too political.
Oh, it's like the vegan thing, actually. As long as you're not, I'm gonna share a lot of your beliefs probably, but at the end of the day, I don't really like crowds, and you got to respect that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could date someone, but if they're like every rally, I got to go to it with them. It's like, it's too much. And you got to let me be me and be a little more apathetic than you. And I can date you being as active and political as you are. So yes, but it's got to be a certain brand of politics. I'm not dating a QAnon person, Samantha.
Yeah, and I actually had this conversation with a friend the other day about one of the lovely things about polyamory is like, dating different people and having different needs met by different partners and what we want from like a politicized person in partnership. And I'm like, I don't need someone who's gonna be at like every rally with me, but I would love if they were like, I'll pick you up or I'll drop you off or I'll help you make your poster or it's like there's some acknowledgement or engagement that doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to be in the thick of it with you, because I feel the same way about sports. It's like, I don't expect every person that I to come to every baseball game with me, but you have to be able to ride the waves of joy and sadness when we win or lose. Like it's, there's a bit of flexibility there. But I find that the people who say if you're too political are people who have a problem. Like what they consider too political is people who like will intervene when they see racism, like
yeah, it's like it's when you say, oh, you're too political. It's like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Status quo is working for me. And that's like pretty short-sighted. Even if the status quo is working for you, it's not working for, dare I say, billions of people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break, Samantha, and come back and continue this conversation. Deal breakers and is being overly political, or at least in the eyes of someone on an app, a deal breaker. We are back with Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. We're talking about the apps, and we're talking about what some of these people put on their profiles listed under deal breakers. These are a lot of fun, and the deal breaker we were discussing before our quick break was if someone is very political or overly political or too political, would that be a deal breaker? And you were about to tell a story.
Yeah, I was going to say that on one of the dating apps that I'm on that has like it's more relationship focused. It's like there's a lot of prompts where you can kind of disclose who you are, what you're looking for, whatever. And I got this one guy who liked my photo or whatever it is, and in his like immediate bio was like, you should not go out with me if you're quote unquote too political. If you are like a far out leftist and something about like not wanting any drama. And I was like, did you read my bio? Do you have a sense of who I might be? Like, yes, these titties are popping, but like I'm very openly leftist and also like clearly about the drama. Like it was absurd. And I was like, it just goes to show that people don't read bios, they just look at photos. And I'm a bio reader though. I might scroll some photos to see if there's like an entry level attraction before I read a bio, but I'm usually pretty open to kind of looking at someone holistically. I'm not just going to swipe left because I don't initially think someone is like attractive.
I think a lot of people just swipe, just approve everyone, and then when they get the match, then they check out the profile, just to kind of get as many matches as possible. At least that's what they used to do 175 years ago, circa 1748, when I started on the apps.
But you can't do that anymore. No dating app will let you swipe indefinitely. Like you have a certain number of likes per day that you can send. And I also take great offense to the notion that someone just like indiscernibly was like, yeah, I'd swipe right, like just to try to match with me, as opposed to being like, wow, this is one of the most uniquely beautiful and sexy women I've ever seen, especially in a 5-kilometer radius of me. I have to send one of my precious likes for the day.
Well, I was talking about other people. No one would ever do that with you, Samantha. I think we all know this. You had a list of commonly listed or at least deal breakers that you've seen. These are fun. What was the next one on your list that you've seen?
Being sober.
Oh, I mean, I don't drink, so not a problem at all.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, also a sober bro. So I bring this one up because people have totally not wanted to date me because I'm sober.
I get it, I guess. Not very nice.
If you're if you're someone abusing drugs and alcohol, anybody who doesn't have some sort of behavioral issues around substances isn't going to care if I'm sober, right? Like,
No, I'm saying I get why it happens.
oh,
I see how someone can come to think that they just can't be around a sober person because they feel they need to be around drugs, alcohol all the time, or that's their friend group, or the sober person won't fit in. Like, I see how they come to this conclusion. I don't agree with it. Like, figure out your shit, dude, and maybe change your lifestyle a little bit. It's not sustainable. I mean, I suppose it is. Look at Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. That guy's face looks like drugs. I don't know how he's made it to like 70 or 80, that dude. He shouldn't have made it to 20.
wealth, genetics.
Yeah,
There's lots of things.
wealth genetics. I don't think the Rolling Stones are strapped for cash, as I understand it.
All right. Not having an quote unquote active lifestyle, aka if you're fat.
Oh, I didn't realize. Are you sure those two can be separated?
No.
Are you sure?
Anytime 100%. Anytime someone feels the need to articulate in their dating app bio, like, you should not go out with me if you don't have an active lifestyle, you're being fat phobic. Anybody who's like active or is like sports oriented or like wants a partner to do sports with them, you would frame it in a completely different way. It'd
Okay.
be like, I love to do activities and sports with my partners. Like, that's how you would frame it. It is like a known fat phobic, like coded thing to say.
I believe you. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking more of the archetype of the hiker, of the person whose whole life is going up hills and mountains and trails and mountain biking and cross country skiing and I don't know what else they do, skeet shooting. They play cricket. I don't know what they do. Tennis. I just mean if someone's whole life and social life is organized around outdoor recreation, I could see how they wouldn't want someone like me, who's just doesn't do it, not interested. Hiking to me is a nightmare. I don't get it.
What I'll say about that is that any of those people who are like active lifestyle people, if let's call them, all of their photos are them doing active lifestyle things. So for me, if I am scrolling through somebody's bio, and this is across genders, and every photo is them like rock climbing or like it's like them on their bicycle, or, they illustrate to me what they're interested in that way. I would never even try to swipe on them because I'd be like, it could never be me. So,
Okay.
like,
Okay, let me pick
so
this apart. You're saying the specific language, like active lifestyle only, is fat phobic, which I see. But then I'm talking about more like a kind of person who you're only really going to get along with them if you're into sports. I've had coworkers like this that I'm never going to be friends with them because the only way I could possibly bond with them is by going hiking, and I'm not hiking. I'm talking more about this type that exists that it won't work if you're not active. What you're saying is if you list it, or what I'm hearing, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you're listing it as your like number one deal breaker, you don't have an active lifestyle, that's kind of coded fat phobia. I understand that.
yeah, exactly that. And again, like I said, like when we choose our photos, we're choosing them to illustrate who we are as people, right? We're trying to consolidate this, being a whole person into like a bunch of 6 photos, say. And if you're someone where like being active and like doing activities and all those things are like that important to you, you're going to share those as your photos. Those are going to be the photos you have of yourself. And someone like me is going to see that and be like, oh, bless you. Like, you might be fine as hell, but we're not going to work. And like, that's an obvious thing.
Got it.
Same thing as if people, every photo they're holding like a beer or a drink. I'm like, or if they list like wine as one of their interests, I'm like, okay, like we're not going to be compatible if that's how you want to show yourself.
Yeah, you could say I like wine rather than put as deal breaker, no alcoholics, like.
Yeah.
I see. And it's the same thing with saying I'm into an active lifestyle. One is kind of really coded negative language, and the other is like, okay, well, this is just my lifestyle. Our first date's going to be a hike. So if you're not interested in hiking, it's not going to happen.
exactly that. And I started riding, like I bought a new bicycle and I started riding my bike yesterday. And I had sent a photo to Jacob, who he and I are like good friends now. We broke up over a year ago, like we're buddies. And he's like, respectfully, where was this energy when we were dating? And it's like, you know what? The same way, if you want to go for a vegan meal, you can find some other bitch to go on a bike ride with. Like that's just the truth. And this is like a necessary evil for me. And also, this is why we aren't together, because you say stuff like that. Like, and like he's in therapy now, like really good therapy. And it's like, where was that same energy when we were dating? Like, I could say that. I could say that.
Did you have one more deal breaker?
I do. And it's a fun one. Being a cop.
I feel like, no, yes, it is a deal breaker, but I feel like it's so tough to be a female cop. I'd be more sympathetic. A straight female cop? No? You're not buying this argument?
Cops is cops.
All right.
All cops are bastards across the gender and sexuality spectrum. Cops
Fine.
are cops.
Can I admit it's like a little sexy? While still not supporting, like just as a role-playing thing. Like, you wouldn't want to go back to being a schoolgirl, but if you wore a cute little outfit.
I don't know why you're making assumptions about me.
if one, or I could wear a leather scary thing like I'm a dungeon master. I'm not going to go open a real dungeon where I imprison real people. I'll go to jail for that.
Okay, I'm an abolitionist, but cop is not hot.
No,
respectfully. But have you ever heard the Lil Wayne song, Mrs. Officer?
No, but is it going where I'm going, kind of?
It, like, you should listen to it. It's really funny. But yeah, like, anyway, no cop is a popular a popular deal breaker.
Look, I couldn't, I wouldn't. I don't want to date the state's institutionalized violence. That's not for me.
It's just impossible.
That's a polite way to put it. That's like without even expressing like an opinion on police. Police and military are the institutionalized violence of the state. Look, I'm not interested. It's not for me.
It just could never be me. A firefighter? Yeah. A paramedic? Absolutely.
I learned something about firefighters in New York that I think everyone should know. Don't let them in your house. They trash everything. They destroyed the front of my building. There was a guy stuck in the elevator. No one opened the door quick enough to like get into where the elevator room was, which is like a locked building door. They just took a crowbar to it. They just destroy everything in their path to try to help you. But their concern is not the well-being of your home. Their concern is your health and safety. They will trash your place.
People over property, 100%. If I'm stuck in an elevator, I want crowbars, smash him, whatever you got to do. This building. I'm a human woman.
No, I agree with it, but if you can avoid them, like if there isn't an actual emergency, don't let him in your house. If your house is burning, let him in. Who cares if they trash something?
Being stuck in an elevator is not an emergency to you?
I mean,
that is an emergency.
Samantha, thank you.
I can nary think of a bigger emergency. What if it was tomato in there?
Yeah, then just smash the whole building down. Take a bulldozer to the building to get him out. All right. I'm not saying New York's finest aren't New York's finest, and I'm not talking about the cops. I'm talking about the firefighters. They just trash it. Like, they just destroy everything in their path. It's kind of hilarious and adorable at the same time. And I got to tell you, they're all hunks. Like, when they get called to my building all the time, I don't know why, and I'm like, lock up your wives. These men are. It's like they're a parody of themselves. They only let hot people into the New York Fire Department.
Every time I see a firefighter on an app, they're always fine. They're always fine. I'm like, yeah.
Samantha, thank you so much. These were fun. Samantha Bitty is a Toronto-based sexual health and consent educator. And in just a few moments, our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, will join us from London, England, to discuss, amongst other things, the helicopter crash that killed the Iranian president and how ChatGPT was using, without her permission, Scarlett Johansson's voice. Tony's the best in the biz, and I can't think of anyone else I'd rather have analyze these stories. And if you believe that, I've got some land to sell you on the moon. Tony 5 up next. We are here with Tony 5, our special Middle Eastern correspondent. Tony, can you tell us the reactions in Iran because the... Can you tell us the public's reaction in...
I mean, you're a fucking lunatic.
I certainly am. Can you tell us the public's reaction to the Iranian president smashing in a helicopter to the side of a hill? I thought avoiding hills was like what they learn in helicopter school, but apparently not.
In all fairness, to somebody who's probably condemned more people to stoning than most people, that mountain really did give him a good stoning, didn't it, to be fair?
Hey, that's a good joke. Did you make that
Thank you very much. I'll be here all week trying to veal.
Did you? You heard that one. No, you heard that one. You didn't write that one, did you?
Yeah, I did.
All right. I'll give you credit for it.
Yeah, like a big old pebble. My other one was that, he threw a lot of little stones at people and somebody threw a massive stone at him. But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously correspondent for the Middle East, the Top East, the Bottom East, and the Behind East, which a lot of people don't really know about, David, to be fair.
Inner Mongolia, Outer Mongolia, but it's the Middle Mongolia. What happens along the border of the Mongolias? Is it like North Korea, South Korea, or do they get along? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Inner Mongolia, Outer Mongolia, for some reason, I always think about belly buttons, like an innie and an outie. And the Mongolia is like the belly button of the world. Do you not think?
I don't know. I'm like, is Mongolia a war-torn place that we shouldn't be making fun of? It's weird that a country's divided between inner and outer. It's also, that's all I know about it. It might be a language.
What do you know about Mongolia? Let's talk about your Mongolian facts.
I think it might be like ethnically divided between like... Yeah, I think it's...
All right, if I had to tell you where was Mongolia, could you point it out on a map?
Yeah, it's between China and Russia, is it not?
No.
What?
I'm pretty sure it's beneath China, somewhere in the Mongolian Ocean.
China? No, it's literally between Russia and China. It's like China's hat. It's actually China's yarmulke.
I'll be honest with you. I'm thinking of the Philippines.
Yeah, that's south of China. But Mongolia, if you think of China as the nice Jewish man, Mongolia is the yarmulke or the kippah or the skull cap that China is wearing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the skull cap of the world. So quite a holy place if you think about Mongolia, to be fair.
True. I think Inner Mongolia might be a part of China.
Right. And Outer Mongolia, maybe Russia?
I think it's its own country, but maybe Russia. It was one of the Soviet republics. I'm just making it up. I don't actually know.
Today, sponsored by National Geographic. David, I mean, we really need to get some form of sponsorship going. What are we an expert in?
Oh, we're an expert in not being experts. Is that something?
But that surely is an expertise in itself, right?
It's like, is nothing something, Tony? Because nothing is a thing. If I say, what's in the drawer, you want to know what thing is in the drawer. And if I say nothing's in there, it's still
David, as I speak to you now, I'm a cliche. As we talk on Zoom, I have such a bright light behind me that you can only really see me when I smile. Look.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's horrific, isn't it?
It's racist. That sunlight is racist.
My Apple Mac is so racist. It's unbelievable. But yeah.
What do you make of AI racism, by the way? Like machine learning, analyzing photos to see if someone's a criminal. Like they're deploying in the New York subways these cameras that are going to watch people to see if they're quote unquote suspicious. But I guarantee you it's going to say, oh, this guy's got a bomb, and it's going to be some poor guy getting home to his family wearing a turban. Like I'm certain that these things are racist because they're programmed and trained with human data sets, which carry our inherent biases.
So there will be, I genuinely think there will be AI racism, AI sexism, AI-isms, basically. And I'd like to coin that phrase, the AI-ism.
The AI-ism. It's just...
They will be, what's the word? Discrepancies and there will be, what's the word I want to use? I'm trying to use a word. See, where's AI when you need it?
Exactly. Word for discrepancy.
Another word for discrepancy when people are racist, sexist.
It's not discrepancy.
Give me another word. out there, if anybody's listening, send us an email with the word I'm trying to think of.
Discriminatory.
Prejudice. There will be an AI prejudice inherently in, which is fun. Which, when you think about it, it's amazing. Because all I can think about is Arnold Schwarzenegger going to Compton.
Wait, you as someone who's black thinks that inherent racism with AI is amazing?
Well, I find most things amazing, but like the fact that technology is like at the moment, I don't know whether you listen to Spotify, but as I was walking home from work today, the phone just started talking to me. He goes, "Hey Tony, this is your DJ." And apparently Spotify has just uploaded this feature which has got its own DJ. It's like Siri type thing. And it started randomly talking to me and telling me what music I might listen to. It was just, but it was like a real human voice. It was fantastic.
Oh God, they're replacing radio hosts. We got to get the sponsorship from Spotify, but to go back to the AI racism, let's say,
yes,
I'm sure they do it in the UK, but the Americans are way better at this, arresting black people at a higher rate than white people. Americans love doing that, American police. So let's say you want to train an AI to like detect criminals based on photographs. I'm not saying you should do this, but let's say someone had the crackpot idea to figure out if someone's a criminal merely based on their photograph, and so they got to train the AI. And what are they going to use? Mugshots.
Existing statistics, right?
Exactly, and mugshots even. Let's say you want to train it on the photograph, and who of the police arrested one too many times? People of color. So the mugshots are going to be people of color. Now this AI is going to be biased towards the data that it was trained on, even though that data was because of human bias. It's just a silly example, but that's the way that our biases can creep into the system in the training of it, right?
Do you not think they could just throw in some more white people pictures instead? Just to even it up.
But then it wouldn't be a quality data set because it wouldn't be trained on the people that were arrested. Oh. Look, I don't actually think this is a good idea. I don't think we can take photos of 1,000 arrested people and then say, oh, you look similar to them, therefore you're arrestable. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm just giving you an example about how human bias can enter the system. That's all.
Maybe delete a couple of black people pictures? What do you reckon? I mean, for every 5 black people you've got, just delete one picture.
How about don't train a set based on whether someone's going to commit crime on the color of their skin? How about that?
All right, 2 pictures. Yeah. Two pictures.
Yeah, just like Michael Jackson's black and white video.
Yeah, and maybe throw a couple of Chinese people in there just to kind of AI it up. Do you know, like mess them up a little bit?
Mongolians, outer Mongolians.
Oh my God, you could throw some inners and outers in there. Good Lord, that'd be amazing.
Ella's what?
You could throw some inners and outers, Mongolians.
Oh, inners,
and they would balance it up. Way to stay on topic, David.
Well, I didn't understand what you were saying. I couldn't make out your British English. You're so hard to understand.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
Am I ever hard for you to understand? You're just like, what is this accent that this motherfucker is like? Does that ever?
Don't swear, David. Push the button. So I do find on a serious note. So earlier on today, I had a phone call from one of these, people trying to sell you something, and it was, "Hi there, Tony. How are you?" And it was so authentic, David. I mean, it was amazing. So I said, "Oh, listen, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of something," and the response was, "Oh, no problem. We'll give you a call back later." And I thought to myself, sounds too. It was so responsive. It was so. Then the phone call said, "Just wanted to call you about an offer in your area," and I talked over him, realizing that this was a pre-recorded AI bot or whatever. But it sounded so realistic that it must be programmed to inputs. And if you say no, I'm busy, or no, I'm not, and it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. And currently, one of the things in the news today, so I am really up to date, David, ChatGPT had a voice assistant, I think it was called Sam, which sounded so much like Scarlett Johansson that she actually nearly took them to court, and it's now been brought down. Did you know that?
I also know that her last name does not have a silent J. Scarlett Johansson. Not Johansson. It sounds like Johann Sebastian Scarlett, Anyway, not important. I did hear about this. I wasn't aware that she was threatening a lawsuit, but I was aware that they took it down, and it's kind of wild. I wonder how that happened. Did they secretly base it on her voice because they liked her voice without her permission? It is interesting. Do you own the likeness of your voice? Like, if someone trained a bot on every episode of this podcast and found a way to recreate your voice, Tony, could they use it for whatever, or do you own the copyright to your likeness as it pertains to your voice? Let's put a pin in that and come back in just a moment, Tony, and we'll ask the question, do you own the copyright to your voice? am here with AI voice replication expert Tony Five, and we're talking a very real topic. It's kind of interesting. The question, do you own the copyright to your own voice? Does some company have the right to make an AI version of your voice?
Well, it's funny. So the film called Her with Joaquin Phoenix, or Joaquin Phoenix, as you'd like to call him.
Joaquin, yeah.
Yeah, had a Siri assistant played by Scarlett Johansson, which was like a precursor to Siri and how AI has gone on. And a lot of people, especially virgins or Redditors, as we call them, are petitioning to have it back. But as you say it, would I? So they reckon that this Scarlett Johansson voice was AI generated from users and what people would have thought was the best voice. And Scarlett Johansson does have an incredible voice. And if somebody out there was to make my AI voice, a thing, do I own my voice? That's quite an interesting thing. How do you copyright it? I guess for voice actors, like, for example, who's the most famous vocal actor? You're looking at Morgan Freeman, James Earl Jones, Darth Vader.
That guy Putty from Seinfeld, he does every cartoon in the world. But go on.
Who's that? Putty?
I don't know his name. The actor, he's so funny.
Really?
Yeah. What's his name? Patrick Warburton.
Oh, Patrick Warburton. Yes, he's in thingy, isn't he? He's in
everything,
SpongeBob
dude.
SquarePants.
He's in
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Dude, he's in everything.
Yeah, he is the big guy. He's kind of big guy, right?
Yeah.
So, would you? Because you've got quite a unique. I suppose everybody has a unique voice, don't they? When you think about it.
It's like the shape of your vocal cords. Well, I know in the US, at least, you kind of own your likeness. Now, if you're in public and you get photographed for a news story, they can use that photograph. But you can't advertise for, car insurance using a celebrity's photo without their permission. So does that apply to voices? I would say yes, If you were surreptitiously recorded, maybe surreptitiously isn't the right word, but if you were accidentally recorded.
Great word, though.
It is a great word. Word of the day. If you were accidentally recorded at a basketball game, let's say you had tickets near where the announcer was, they could use that, but they couldn't advertise for something with your voice. It's kind of like the same idea with photographs.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, for example, if somebody took your voice and, I don't know, maybe did something not illegal, but advertised tampons, for example, but didn't say it was David Cooper, but it was very immediately recognizable as your voice. Where does that sit in US law? Because I don't know where it sits in English law.
I think we're only getting now to where this can be tested, right? In the past, you'd have to have the person do the voiceover,
What about imitators? What about people that can imitate people's voices? What was their thing? There was that really funny guy who was in Police Academy, and he could do them crazy voices, Michael something or other. If he did somebody's voice, does he get the royalties because he's performing the voice? Would something go to, if I went, I paid the fall, is Mr. T, can he sue me?
I don't know. I know that parody under U.S. copyright law is covered. That's how SNL gets away with saying, we're here at Starbucks. And they'll say, this is the new Apple product. Like, they can get away with it because it's parody.
Wow.
So there's wild, loopholes in U.S. law for parody and comedy. But it has to be clear that it's parody, which Saturday Night Live is clearly parody.
But if they come on Saturday night and said something really derogatory about Apple, even though it's a known parody, could they get away with it?
If it's a joke, yes. If it's just, if Apple could prove it was just to demean their company and deface their brand for no reason, then they could sue, I think.
Okay.
It has to be clearly parody. Like, it's got to be a joke. There's got to be a laugh track. It's got to have some gimmick to it.
Wow. So, my voice, right, it's odd anyway, and it's an English voice. But if you, for example, let me do a David Cooper voice. Now, hi, my name's David Cooper. I'm from Toronto. Yeah.
Wow, hold a second. I thought I was talking.
Hold a second. I don't talk like this. My name's David Cooper.
I thought I was talking. I was like, did I hear my own voice?
I thought I'm talking. Hi, David Cooper, Jewish. Hi, gefilte fish.
That really sells it. I know, right? As you're speaking, I'm thinking this is my own voice, but my mouth isn't opening. It's uncanny, Tony. Uncanny.
Thank you. It's very canny, actually, you'd find. So, I mean, where do you draw the line, and where would the money go to? Is it to the AI developer? Is it is it the person who's programmed that in? Would you get a cut of it? It's right. This is a whole litigious minefield, as someone clever would say, right?
It certainly is. And I guess we're seeing it with ChatGPT.
But I think it started off with the first time I'd ever seen it was things like that is where they did those deep fakes, where actresses were superimposed on pornographic actresses, and there was loads of people. But I don't know how that ended. To be fair, I only ever watched 3 minutes of those whole stories and then I turned off. But had I watched the whole thing, I would have found out what happened at the end. So what did happen towards these people that were deep faked?
I mean, it's so doable now with just basic tools if you know what you're doing.
You can do it on an iPhone. You can literally get apps on an iPhone.
I think the media is just not talking about it because it's not trying to prevent it. It's just we as a society shifting to be able to deal with it. And
wow.
I was having this discussion maybe 3 months ago with the conspiracy expert on this show.
Who's that?
Nathan Radke and Lee Kuhnla are the two people who come on for that.
Oh, I'd love to talk to them. I believe in all that stuff.
No, they're more like experts on those who do believe. They themselves don't believe in many.
Oh.
But I propose that maybe since the invention of the camera, maybe the video camera, because cameras you could fake with drawings and stuff, like Stalin edited. Was it Lenin who edited himself into a photo with Stalin and then was like,
what, in the Beatles?
No.
The guy in the Beatles?
I'm talking about the communists. I'm talking about the USSR, baby. The Russian Revolution.
John Lennon?
No, the other Lenin. Vlad.
Tony Lennon.
Right. But I think Lenin, like 1940s, photoshopped himself into a photo with Stalin, or was it the other way around? Which was the OG? Was Stalin the OG?
I'm gonna Google that now. Lenin Photoshop. Lenin photo editor. David, you are correct.
I mean, he didn't use Photoshop.
He just blurred it.
But it was Stalin. Lenin was the original.
Yep, Stalin's propaganda machine.
As I tell this story, I'm like sounding like such an idiot.
You're editing it as you're telling the story. It's fantastic. This is like AI.
No, I'm not. I'm going to leave this in. I don't mind people knowing that I'm an idiot.
Okay,
so
carry on.
Lenin was the original communist, and then Stalin was like the next gen who really messed things up for everyone. You with me?
Yeah, I get you, yeah.
So when Lenin died, Stalin, wants to make a move to become the leader. And so he basically airbrushes himself into a famous photo of Lenin and then shows it to everyone being like, Lenin loved me.
Wow. Yeah, he's seen on top of a pedestal giving a speech to people. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
He just photoshops himself into a photo being like, I think Lenin was secretly like, that Stalin guy, he's a bit of an authoritarian. He's not really good for the movement. Like, I don't think Lenin liked him that much. And then you obviously know what happened under communism in Russia after Stalin. The original communist revolution, things weren't so bad. I mean, they weren't great.
Pretty decent. I mean, there wasn't a McDonald's, but apart from that,
came later.
Was okay.
Anyway, long story short, after the video camera was invented, but before we had the technology for deepfakes, you couldn't really lie about news that was reported on video. I mean, you could fake things, but I just mean you could kind of believe if there was a video of a world leader speaking, that was a video of the world leader speaking. And so I don't even know how true that is. You could get an actor and then, you could create fake stuff, but it would take a lot of effort. And so it was this kind of like golden age of truth for media. You could more or less believe the evidence that media outlets presented to you to say this story's true, whether it was photographs or videos. Now that's gone. But you shouldn't worry so much because humanity made it up until the invention of the video camera. With newspapers, you could just lie on newspapers. Now it's just newspapers, you can believe them about as much as you could before the invention of the video camera. So I call this period the golden age of truth. I'm sure anyone with an actual degree in history or who knew what they were talking about could say why my idea is wrong. As we know, I don't even know whether Stalin or Lenin came first. But the golden age
of truth... It's like the chicken or the egg. Which one came first?
I don't know. Who knows? Read a history book.
Do you reckon the chicken photoshopped the egg?
Tony, we're talking about the golden age of truth here. As it relates to deepfakes of voices, if you heard a voice recording of Trump in the 80s, you could believe it was him. Now he could just say it's fake, and now that there's the tools to fake it, you don't know. And so we've kind of, with these new tools, our ability to trust media outlets is dropping. And when we were able to trust them, a little bit more than now. I call it the golden age of truth. What do you make of that, Tony?
It's a fantastic word and a fantastic name for such a thing. Where do you think it will end, David? Do you think, if you had the choice now to keep going forward or to go back to say, let's pick an arbitrary date, 1985, would you go back?
Well, I wouldn't.
Knowing what you know now?
Wouldn't even be a sperm or an egg then.
No, going back to your age, but 1985.
Well, I do love radio, and radio was really in its heyday in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And so if I could take the skills I've learned today and go back in time, I might do it just purely on a career basis. But to answer your question more seriously, I'm happy where we are, and going forward is what I would do.
Okay. Well, I would go back. I hate it now.
And on that, thank you for being here, Tony.
David, always a pleasure, never a chore. And this is the real Tony 5, not AI, who sounds like this. Hello, I am Tony 5.
All right, goodbye, Tony 5. Thank you for listening, listener. That's our show. I'll be back tomorrow. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, beep, beep.